We're here to empower high-income earners to gain back control of your time through financial independence and stop trading your time for money and start letting your money work harder for you.
And hey, if you want to meet other high-income earners on their FIRE journey, join our High Income Earners FIRE Facebook group. Every month, we'll have guest speakers and we'll share about what our team is currently working on and allow you to share what you are working on with other high-income earners.
So welcome everyone back to High Income Earners FIRE podcast. I'm Cody Ye. Today I'm with my co-host, Aline Prag. And then today we have an awesome guest, Andrew Hines. Andrew Hines is a well-known real estate podcast host in Canada called Andrew Hines Real Estate Investing Podcast. He's also very highly involving in new construction and flipping and any other business activity. And I don't want to steal it from him. So that's welcome, Andrew Hines.
Thanks for having me.
Cool. So for our audience, in case they don't know you, can you kind of give us a quick intro of yourself, what you're up to lately?
Yeah, so real estate investor since 2010. Just caught the bug when I saw, student rentals at school, started buying single families, then got into student rentals in 2015, doing a lot of my own additions and, building, sometimes adding in 1,000 square feet to the rear end of a house. So I got into building construction from there. I started a construction company and I do some townhouse builds, single family builds for different developers, well, primarily one. And on my own front, as I mentioned, I had done some student rental investing. I'm really focused on US investing right now in Florida, building new construction, single family homes, just sort of production, repetitive to build both my own portfolio and also sell. So that's the latest focus. And then recently purchased a campground trailer park just south of Tobermory in Ontario, Canada. And
I heard about that. I heard about that. I could tell us more. Yeah, later on.
Yeah, that's a really interesting one. I see a huge income play on that one. Just kind of getting a little bit more creative because lately the market in Ontario is, less appealing to an investor. Sure, you can find cash flow, but is it a needle in a haystack or is it, the haystack? So I feel like down here in Florida, it still is, common, although things are trending in the same direction as Ontario for the last several years.
Yeah, we're seeing a lot of Toronto people actually move down to Florida. There's a lot of influx, new people going to Florida, right? And how do you compare the Florida investing experience with the GTA in general? And then maybe Aline can chime in about the Orange County or the Las Vegas one that she's going into, right?
Well, in Ontario, it's such a seller's market and it is here too. But the difference is Ontario has been going crazy since 2016. Like really the latter half of 2016 is where things notably changed. And the market never really was the same again. Whereas, GTA had a little correction. I think it was 2018, but then it was right back up. Down here, they pretty much had 2.5 years of that type of growth, where I think they had 15% the first year, and then they were up to like 23% the following year. Whereas Ontario has just been year after year of that type of number. And I think we're just further along in Ontario than Florida is. So I saw that, that's the beautiful thing about being in a market that's, so far along that process is you can see other markets that are in that process earlier on, recognize the signals and sort of take advantage of that opportunity. And when I saw, able to build houses and be in for like, single detached house, 80-foot lot, 120 deep, 3-car garage, 2,000 square feet, and I'm in like roughly 400 to 450. Like those numbers compared to home, it's just like, why wouldn't I be doing that? So that's kind of where I saw my numbers right now. And they're going up. It's getting more expensive to buy lots and of course building materials too, but still so much cheaper. And I like to say water flows to the lowest point. And homeowners will go to more affordable areas. So if I pick a market that's relative price point is lower, I can stand to benefit and also be hedged in a downturn because I was already in the cheaper market. So if prices go down, there's still going to be hopefully an appetite for that market.
So coming from Canada, how did you decide on the Florida market?
We've been coming down here for a long time, Naples area primarily. But I went to last year, we came down for like 3 months during the lockdown, 3.5 months. And I just started looking up real estate investing meetups because I wanted to meet local investors and see what's working, what's not. And I met a guy who does this type of build, and I'm like, okay, yeah, I'm going to do that. Like, it just made sense to me because of my building experience back home. I feel like a lot of people avoid new construction just because to them it seems daunting, right? It seems much safer to just renovate, do a lipstick reno on a flip or a single family home. But to me, that's low hanging fruit. Everybody's going after that. I'd rather go after that which people are a little afraid of, that I feel like I have a skill for, and focus on that. So that's sort of been my model. So Florida was more of, we already came down here. I like the market. But I mean, if you think about politically, it's very appealing right now. A lot of people are flocking to Florida. The in-migration is huge here. No state taxes. Of course, the climate's good. I feel like, in industry wise, there's still a ways to go in Florida, but there's so much going for it. And then, of course, the relative price point compared to so many other markets, it's still quite affordable.
So Cody, are you going to move down to Florida now?
I wouldn't say no. Definitely in the winter, I really want to probably move to a warmer place and then just fly to a place I can snowboard or ski if I need to. Yeah. But I don't really need that icy roll all the time. I'll leave it at that.
Yeah, I'd like to go. Like, I'd like to have that, where I'd go to like Banff for like a weekend or a couple of weeks in a winter,
or Utah,
Colorado, or something like that. Right? Yeah, but I don't need to live in the snow. For me, I have no use for the snow other than if I wanted to go skiing, which is amazing. Love skiing in the mountains. So that would be the one thing I would want snow for. But other than that, I'll take hot.
Yeah, it's like where we are in California. You can drive about an hour and a half away and you can get snow. You can drive an hour the other way, you can get the ocean. So you get like awesome. Most of the best of all the places.
Yeah, California is definitely beautiful landscape.
Love it. I'm going to throw you a curveball here, Andrew. Like out of nowhere, I'm going to throw you a curveball because I know you're the person who can take it. So are you ready for this curveball? I'm sure you're ready for it. With all these perceived risks coming up, increased interest rate, like 20% foreign buyers, tax on Ontario, like some of the city banding foreign buyers, like Mississauga, Hamilton, all that. Like all these investors, how are you taking all these and how are you investing or letting other investors know that? What's a better way of going forward in 2022?
I mean, I've been pretty vocal about my displeasure with how, the Canadian government has done just about everything in the last 2 years. I think that it's very irresponsible. There's so many like basic economic principles that have been violated. So my message has been fairly consistent in that I think it's a really good time to diversify outside of Canada. I think investing in Canada with the people at the helm currently is incredibly risky in general. So I actually sold off a few properties, and yes, I'm still open to buying, say, like trailer parks and hospitality type investments in Ontario, but I acknowledge that risk. There's definitely a risk there. I think that it's just a great idea. In case your country does something you don't like, make sure you've diversified out of it. It's just like diversifying into any other type of investment. Diversify across borders, diversify into different currencies, and a little gold and silver might not hurt. For me, I think like just recognize your exposure. So many people have those rose-colored glasses on where they like to think that Canada is so bankable or wherever you are is so bankable. Well, we've come to believe that, but that's not true. Nothing is risk-free, and we have to acknowledge the risks. And therefore, once we acknowledge them, we have the ability to actually take action and adjust our approach. So I'm pretty adamant about telling people, hey, Florida, I think is an awesome place. I get DMs from people all the time saying they're immigrating down here, they're investing down here, like just nonstop. I'll get one, some days I'll get a few of them. Sometimes I'll just get a few a week, but it's crazy just how many people are on the same page and are planning their exit from Canada, or at least planning to be able to exit Canada.
Following up on that question is, so how are the Canadians going down there? I know you mentioned about the E2 visa, but what are other ways that they can easily stay down there for longer if they try to explore or they just want to invest with someone else? How can they do that?
Well, you don't have to have an investor visa to come down. I mean, this is just, me regurgitating what I've heard from my immigration lawyer. But basically, with a visitor visa, any of us, we know we can go down for 6 months, right? I've been told that you can extend that. If you're already down, you can extend that to another 6 months. I'm sure there are some implications. Obviously, anybody listening, talk to your immigration lawyer. But if you want to do it otherwise, there are a number of different visas that I've heard of that basically you can apply for depending on your situation. If you have a company in Canada, you can sometimes expand business operations south of the border. There's a different type of visa for that. But the easy one that everyone seems to be doing is the E2 investor visa. I shouldn't call it easy, but relatively easier.
Starts with an E, so it's supposed to be easy, right?
Relatively, yeah, compared to the others. But there are people who will just like invest in an ice cream stand or something, put like 50 grand into equipment and a lease, and they can get a visa approved on that. Other people will buy, $500,000, or sorry, we'll buy like $5 million of real estate, in an active business to get it approved. So I think that the one thing they don't like for any real estate investors is they don't like a passive real estate investor coming down and buying, say, 5 or 10 properties and saying, I want an investor visa. They'll say, no, that's not an active business. Like, passive rentals are passive. So you can debate that all you want, but that's just what the feedback is that I got from my immigration lawyer. So again, not a lawyer. Everyone confirm this with your own lawyers, but that's my take on it.
So are you primarily focused on the real estate side for your creating your own passive income and your investments? Or do you also, I think you mentioned a little bit of diversification with like gold and silver and some of the other methods?
Yeah. I mean, like things like gold and silver and crypto, which I'm not big on crypto, but I do see it as a tool, slight step up from fiat cash, but that stuff doesn't generate you money, right? Like you could hold it and it might go up in value, but it's really just insurance against inflation. So for passive and for long-term, freedom, it's real estate, both in terms of holding some active, but yeah, definitely like I'm looking at down here, the option to do Airbnb rentals, and I'm big on creating systems. So I'll basically hire the people that I need to create the system so that I'm not involved in a day-to-day and the system runs itself. And so I really like the idea of doing that down here because it'll still work. It'll be like more of a break even at current market rent rates if I don't do that. If I just do like regular monthly rentals, or if I go into Airbnb, then I can just, I don't even know just how good it could be. I'm actually going to be experimenting. And if it doesn't work out, I'll just go back to regular rentals. But to me, yeah, it's always been own property, have tenants pay down your mortgage and then pay you to live.
That's great because like what are we doing in Ontario? Like personally, like I know a lot of people are doing duplex or whatever, but I'll probably be one of the first one. I won't say first one, but I think I'm the first one to build ADU on the GTA East side. They just got approved in January. So our plan is actually to, do the typical legal duplex, rent it out, and the back we'll probably do a Airbnb just to get extra income. Yeah. But if anything, the main building will carry itself and everything on the back is extra. If we're there, we're there. If not, we just rent it out through Airbnb. So
yeah, isn't that cool? Like that's a thing. I think people really do need to get creative now. Like what is it that you can do to juice up your cash flow a bit? Like I was thinking, can you sit a trailer on your on your driveway and throw that on Airbnb? I mean, maybe Airbnb will allow that. Just like kind of start questioning things, try to get creative because if you think about things long enough or you try and brainstorm about an idea, eventually you typically can find something. How can I get more money out of this? And that's what we're thinking. The campground I mentioned to you, like that's 90 acres. So we have 90 acres to play with of things.
Tell us more about that because I know your 2 other partners, but I never asked details. I want to wait for you to explain it because I think you can explain the best. So what's a game plan on that? And so why do you think that's a diversification?
Oh, I love it. So 1, I want to control a lot of land. So we can check that box off. 2 is it's already a business model that's proven with, trailer rentals. So what we bought was a number of seasonal rental trailer sites. There was about 25 that were seasonally rented for only $2,000 a season, which really wasn't sufficient for the price we paid for this campground. That was not going to be able to continue. So we got rid of that part of the business, and we're keeping the transient trailer so people can come in, they can book a few nights, just like any other trailer park. You pull your trailer in, stay a few nights, and then you pull your trailer out when you're done. So that will continue. But we also have campsites for tenting. And what we're doing that's different and unique is we're actually setting up a glamping section of our campsite where we own the tents, we own the trailers, and they'll be available on Airbnb. You'll have fire pits, decks, lights. So for the tents, it's camping light. You don't have electricity, but you have a queen size bed and you've got, floor rug. You're only half camping, but it'll be a unique experience. So that's, we've got about 10 of those planned. And then we've got 8 seasonal trailer sites that we have plans for immediately to put furnished, rentable product on in terms of trailers. So we've got a couple of Airstreams and a variety of other trailers, which we're just trying to make them cool. So we're still in the acquisition phase there. We might not have the full 8 available for opening this year, but we will continue to add to that. And then of course we have more land. So, as far as glamping goes, we've got a little pond in the middle, which there are sort of campsites that have been filled in. So we'll go in and we'll cut them out and it'll be a walk-on camp area. There's a river that runs down the side of the property, which is sort of hidden. So we just got so many ways we can improve the experience that I know that we'll find new ways to make more money every single year with it. And then beyond that, it's already in a location. We're 20 minutes south of Tobermory. We're about 10 minutes from the Grotto, which are huge tourist attractions. And then 15 minutes to Lion's Head, another really big hiking tourist attraction. So really reaching out to, when we saw an opportunity to really do the marketing better, to really create a much more efficient business that really grabs onto the traffic that say wanted hotels, couldn't get them, wanted campsites elsewhere and couldn't get them. So we're improving our visibility and then also offering people who are looking for a hotel and possibly couldn't get it, the opportunity to glamp. And hopefully they'll like it. We are going to have to put some disclaimers on there. Hey, this is still camping. So if you see a spider, it's not a hotel room. But we're really excited about it. And I just think the opportunity, the potential, I think that it's very possible we scale that up over $1 million in revenue in the next couple of years.
Like my cousins, they love going camping. But for me, I like the light camping. So your version of glamping definitely appeals to what I think of when I think of camping.
Yeah. You don't want to sleep on the air mattress necessarily. And I haven't camped like that in ages either. So that might actually be kind of fun. So we've got really comfy mattresses, really nice pillows. So you get all that, but you're still with nature. Yeah,
absolutely. And you got the nice pond and the good scenery views. That sounds fantastic.
Yeah, it's definitely a fun project.
Yeah. I love.
I feel like I'm not being that creative with the new builds down here in Florida, but with that one, that's a nice outlet to be creative. And I really do think that that's the future in Ontario. If you want to invest, you got to be creative.
Love it. So I know you do a lot of new builds now, moving down to Florida. Trailer park, you still have some new builds probably in the GTA area that's just closing off as well, right? Yeah. So what would be like your top, you say the most, what brings you like in terms of like income source, what would you say is the most highest and best use of your time and you get the most fun out of it?
Well, I mean, I think that the most income is from the building that I do for developers. And that's like production housing, but in a little bit of a different way. I'm working on 126 houses right now outside of the Sarnia area in Ontario. Mm-hmm. And they're anywhere from 1,500 to say 2,200 square feet. Really nice stuff like hardy board siding, like well done product with a clubhouse. And so I'm sort of helping with both the servicing and the entire development of the community, obviously from a construction standpoint. And that actually is probably the most profitable thing. I wouldn't say I totally love doing that like I used to. I think for me, I'm always about the new challenge, right? So that's why the campground's like the new thing. So what I'm really working on now is getting better at delegating and hiring a team and building a team out around me so that I can sort of focus on what I do best, which I think is the creative solutions, the deal finding, which admittedly, I've just been too busy with running my business versus working on my business. And that's the transition I'm starting to make, especially now that my son's in the picture. It's really woken me up to the fact that I need to be a lot less hands-on in my business. And it's forced me to make change, which is a really good thing.
Yeah, I totally agree. Yeah. Like last time I was on your podcast, I remember it was about a year and a half ago, we were having this kind of chat and I grew my team to 8 to 9 people now. And trust me, it was scary. I was making a payroll yesterday, but I got so much free time back. So if I can just focus on what I do best on marketing and then finding deals and building strategic alliance and all that, then that's a lot more useful.
Yeah, it's everything, right?
And now my time is all back. So I literally just have to check in with them. Again, that's it's not as rainbow and sunshine, but
yeah. Well,
we're getting there.
I hired an assistant recently and I was on the fence about that. Can I really justify it for the longest time? And that's actually worked out really well. It's still quite early. I'm working on hiring the multimedia helper. I've had help with my podcast, but not nearly as much as I've needed. And so multimedia, somebody would be, my whole social side and my whole video editing side. So definitely growing and improving. And it just took me a little while to get there.
Definitely. So that kind of good segue into our next question. So I know you've been really hands-on. You've been someone who's really responsible for yourself, your clients, all that. So you want to do everything on your own. Now that you're starting to scale up and start hiring people, and that kind of gets me into the question. So what's your version now of your current situation looking forward? What's your version of FIRE, right? This is the top for our podcast, Financial Independence, Retire Early. What is that vision for you 5-10 years from now? You say, I work so hard now. How am I going to get to what is the ideal lifestyle with all these income or all these investment you're building on?
I think the biggest thing is, just real estate that pays everything I need. And then of course we can always do a little bit more, but I mean, to a certain degree, businesses can even be passive, right? Like once you set up the pieces, as you said, you bought back your time and you just check in. So you're kind of getting into a more passive approach of business. That's nice if it happens, but I mean, my primary thing will be through the real estate. I want to make sure that the real estate pays for everything my wife and I need to, live the life that we want to live. Every single day we can, get up, do whatever we want. Like that's the biggest thing to me, is just complete freedom of each day. What do we want to do today? I would never stop working because work is fun. Like some work, right? Like there's obviously work I don't like doing, and that's the stuff that I delegate. But I mean, the idea of retiring, you even look at people like Mike Rosehart, who achieved FIRE at I think he was like 24 years old or something. That guy didn't stop working. He works harder now than ever.
Full-time social media posting.
Yeah, and exactly. Like he didn't
20
stop
posts per day. Oh
I think what really happens is you stop doing the things you don't like. And that's the true FIRE, right? Like any day you could not work at all, or you'll just work on the things you do like, but it's not needing to work. And I wouldn't say I'm there yet. I mean, of course, I've built stuff that has created wealth for me. But now I want to automate that more. I used to watch guys out of London, Ontario that would buy in the cheaper areas, and I wasn't buying those. I was buying the more expensive stuff that didn't cash flow as well. And they would just crush. And then when the values went up, they're making $10,000, $15,000 a month just from their, handful of properties in South London. And I'm just trying to learn from the examples and not complicate things. Just keep acquiring cash flowing real estate. And if for me, the methodology is to build it, great. Then there's less maintenance for the next, 10, 15 years.
So like kind of vague, kind of like, hey, I just want to wake up and then continue to do more real estate. Yeah. But is there kind of like an ideal day for you? What it would look like?
Especially now you've also taken on a new role of being a dad too.
Yeah.
Yeah. An ideal day. I mean,
Let's
I guess it depends on where I am. If I was
here,
my
perfect day. Yeah.
Perfect day here. Yeah. Head on over to the marina, go out on the boat for a couple hours. Like we don't have a boat here, but we just rented one a couple of times. So much fun. Just drive around all the canals, sun, wind, crack a beer. That's a great start. Spend time obviously with my son, have him come along and, spend time on the beach here. We definitely would have some help in terms of somebody, like a nanny, like we're actually hiring a nanny back home. So that'd be part of the picture. Somebody that can help us with them so we can still do things, because Eileen, I'm sure it can get really tough. It can get really tough when you got to respond to your baby. So, those would all be part of it. But, then spending some time with my wife, it doesn't have to be that complicated. It's more about just that freedom. I love to explore. We like hiking. So, I mean, here it's a little hot to hike, but if we were at home, we'd go for a hike, ATVing, things like that. I also like building some things. So maybe I do a little, woodworking and stuff. Work on my own shop. I actually want to build my own shop. That to me would be a part of a really fun experiment.
Love it. Love it. And then you say you're on your way. So when do you hit that? When will you stop, or will you ever stop?
You know what? I mean, obviously we can put numbers on things, but as you grow,
you have a number in mind? Like
I've always said 20,000 completely passive, and then, that would do everything. But now I look at, as we grow and what we want to do, it can obviously grow from there. I'm pretty frugal. I wouldn't say my wife has that exact same methodology about things, but certainly that would be a great start, getting to that point. And, I think that that's definitely something that can come quite quickly if I play my cards right down here.
Love it. Eileen, do you have any question for Andrew before we go into lightning rounds?
Yeah. What are you most fired up about right now?
Well, yeah, definitely the builds down here. Like I was right before this, I was just hunting out lots. I'm messaging with the realtor I'm working with. I'm like, what about this one? What about that one? Let's just get as many in the queue as possible, because again, why wouldn't I is kind of how I feel. And then certainly the campground, although it's been a lot of work getting the look or the overall plan together for it, just knowing what we're creating and then the ability we have to reproduce it. Definitely, it's a fun model. Hospitality, I think, is really fun, and giving people a good time. That's the right type of business to be in, as far as I'm concerned.
Love it. Love it. Since I asked about what you're so fire about right now, like, what was your worst moment? I haven't asked this question in a while, but I just want to know, like, for someone like yourself who's very sophisticated, what was your worst moment? Like, let's say for the past 2 years, like doing all these stuff, what was that worst moment when you're trying to go towards this journey and then become a new dad? What was your worst moment?
I don't know if it was one moment, but maybe towards the beginning of all, the lockdowns when that happened, just saying, oh man, I had all these goals. And like, for me, I'm just like, with what I see, I kind of felt like just pausing and seeing what's going to happen was the right move. And I don't think that was. I wish I hadn't. I wish I'd kept the gas pedal down, because there was a lot of progress to be made in that time. But I just really wasn't sure, are we going to be staying in Canada? What's the situation going to look like? I think uncertainty has been probably part of the worst moment for me over the last couple of years, because I can handle a lot of economic uncertainty, but I'd never seen something like this. And I think that's true, obviously, for a lot of people. So just navigating through the uncertainty. And that's what every investor has to do. Some handle it better than others. And admittedly, I didn't handle it as well as I should have.
You know what? Hindsight is 2020. No one knows. Of course, it turns out the other way, and they just keep printing money, and asset goes up and all that. But it could, who knows when the music will stop? And it's only until 10 years from now we look back that we know who's the true winners, right? And still no guarantee on that. So true. But I definitely don't think that, this like grand crash is coming in Ontario. I think that prices just keep going up and up. And yes, there will be dips and corrections along the way. That's my perspective. I think it just keeps going out of reach for a lot of people. So hopefully I'm wrong about that. I would love to see, more affordable real estate there. That would be great for, the people who live there. But, we'll see. Like you said, time will tell. You already sound like you're moving to the US. You're like, Canada is a foreign country to me now.
As far as investments go, outside of hospitality, it pretty much is. I kept a couple of properties there, bought the campground, and then, kind of just diverted my attention down here. It just, again, I'm more makes sense, and I'll definitely continue to diversify, looking at some other properties in different states as well. But, like we were talking about this before, the opportunities you see down here, they're pretty insane. I was actually doing a coaching call with somebody this morning, and she said she did a mastermind in California and just couldn't believe, the returns that you could see on deals down here in the States. Like there's a lot of opportunity for sure.
Yeah, I'm going to throw your curveball now. Remember your podcast? You always put people on the spot to talk about numbers. Do you want to do one of your most recent deals in Florida and run us through?
Yeah, we can talk through some numbers. Yeah, for sure.
Just a quick example, just to get people know and get me drooling, and maybe I'll move down tomorrow.
Yeah. So one that we have a permit for, we have a comparable appraisal for like the exact same model, same lot, same neighborhood. So the end product should be $525 based on today's value.
USD,
Yeah, US dollars, everything. So I bought that lot for $23,000. And the build cost, it looks like, my original budget was $365. And there have been a couple of things that were escalated because the prices went up. So let's call it, say, maybe $395 by the time we're all done. If worst case scenario, I maybe it could be worse than that, but I don't think it will be. So say $395 for all that.
Pulling up his own
23,000. So say like $418 all in for. And if you wanted to throw some interest, I originally was planning on just doing this all cash, but I want to scale more aggressively. So I'm gonna finance that.
How's Canadians going down there? Like, do you get any support for financing, or are you raising private money, or how are you doing these?
I just took cash. I pulled out of my properties, but yes, you can get financing down here. It's just not quite as good of numbers, but you can still get construction draw financing. I think it seems a lot more straightforward down here than Canada, actually. A lot more systematic and organized than I see in Canada. But maybe that's because I wasn't looking that hard in Canada. When there's good deals, you find money. That's always been my feel. So this one, if you add in $10,000 for financing costs, say we're at $428,000 or $430,000, and that's kind of in a very pessimistic scenario if my construction costs end up being higher than budgeted. So then based on the $525,000, there's still about $100,000 in that. And of course, we've got the time frame between now and then that property could keep going up in value. So the big thing that appeals to me with this is relative exposure. I'm invested for $430,000.
That's all cash that you put in.
Yeah. Well, no, but I'm going to finance it back out.
Oh, okay. But, so you can refi it back out.
Yes. Okay. Yes, of course.
What's the percentage for that? And that the bank will
75%.
75. Okay, that's not bad.
And I've still got to work through that, but I'm actually going to get construction financing on it. Originally, I was thinking build cash because it would actually help for my visa application. But I just rethought that. I'm like, no, that's stupid. I want to grow way faster than that. So I'm going to borrow money and just do it. So then I talked to the immigration lawyer again, and I said, okay, that's not going to work. Let's do this based on volume. Like, I'll have, X number in down here, and I'll reinvest what I'm making to, this percentage, and then we'll push and we'll grow, and we'll have a plan to add in extra services. So that's sort of the approach. But anyways, yeah. So, invest 430-ish and have potentially 100 or, $70,000 to $100,000 if you want to adjust for realtor fees. If I'm selling it, if I'm keeping it, it almost works as a perfect BRRRR, right? So if I'm in for say 430 and divided by 0.75, so no, I'm going to have money into that. Like say,
that's
unless prices go up. Yeah, I might have 30K or something into that. It depends though. My construction costs could come in less. They could come in closer to budgeted. And then it ends up being that I have no money into it. But at that rate, it won't matter much to me. I don't mind leaving a bit in and then just keep growing. Then the next year refinance as many as I can. Once I have the US visa, I can get a social security number, and then I can get, their bank financing, like their kind of A financing. And, right now get interest rates, high 2s, low 3s, that kind of thing. And then so many more possibilities once you can get interest rates in that ballpark.
Fantastic. Well, Andrew, I think we're ready for the lightning round.
Okay.
You want to go for it, Ali?
All right. Yeah. So the first one is, if you become a billionaire tomorrow, what would your day look like?
Oh, good question. I guess somewhere in there, you got to be buying a yacht. I don't know.
Is that the first thing you would buy?
Oh, the truth is starting to show now.
No, you gotta leave some time for playing money, right? I gotta enjoy it a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, it'd have something, especially just being here in Florida. Go find a nice waterfront property and pick up a boat, and go spend the day on the water with the family. That would be an awesome way of starting things off.
So just buy a yacht. That's it. Buy a waterfront property. Buy a yacht.
Be a yacht. I mean, it could be a pontoon boat with a bathroom on it. I don't care.
Cool. So that's the only thing you would think about if you become a billionaire tomorrow.
No, it's in fairness, I definitely should have thought about this more if I had known I was going to be asked this question.
We're gonna keep
that's not it, but that is it almost seems like a cliche answer. But yeah, I mean, like I said, for me, it's just buying my time. So then right there, figure out what it is that I want to do in terms of lifestyle. Do I want 50 million, a year in income? How do I invest that to create that? And then go spend what I'm making. That's really what it comes down to.
Love it. Sorry for putting you on the spot. I know you were definitely going to get spooked by this one.
It's fun.
Okay, here's the second question for you. So like a lot of our listeners who are high income earners, they work so hard, like physicians, accountants, lawyers, and all that. They put in so much money, student debt, they finally pay off. They have some money setting on the side. We're going to be generous. $500,000 that they can invest, whether that's through HELOC, or that's through cash, or that's through RSP. If they know what you know right now, what would you do? Or what would you suggest them to do?
It depends on the time they have, but if they have the time to learn how to do it,
let's say they're 40 years old, they have 2 kids as well.
Yeah.
They have 500K. It's like, Andrew, where do I start? Or imagine this is you. It's like, this is you. You're like a physician. Right now.
I wouldn't be investing in Ontario. Like if I was an Ontario doctor, and it was my first buy, I would still make it down in Florida. I would just get on a plane, find a way to get down here, go to a couple of real estate meetups, learn what's working down here, and then do it. Like I am not as keen on trying to make it work in a market that's really hard to make it work in. A lot of people just hold on. They want to cling to that market that they've been working in for so long, even though it's so much harder to make a deal work. Not that you can't. Like my mother-in-law makes deals works absolutely everywhere. Like she just finds them everywhere, no matter what, no excuses. And I totally agree with that. I totally think that's possible. So it's all about you and your personality. What do you want to do? Do you want to make that deal happen anywhere, even though it might be work? Or do you want to go to the market that that the deals are a lot easier to make work. And to me, it's worth setting it up. Knowing what I know now, I know to go find people who did it and copy them. That's pretty much what I know now, rather than try and invent everything for myself and pretend that I have the answer to everything. There's just no point in that. Life's too short to behave that way.
And so you are also a podcast host yourself. And so if you were able to get anybody on your podcast and interview them, who would that be?
Good question. My wife interviewed Robert Kiyosaki on her TV show, which I
saw that.
That would have been, I saw the full uncut version of that. That was pretty cool. You know, he would have been one of them for sure. Anybody that would have probably been one of my first. I think Kevin O'Leary would be an interesting guy to interview and just ask him, really drill down on why he doesn't really talk too much about real estate. Although I haven't been following him lately, like get into that and have a debate with him. That'd be fun. And I think that'd get some good eyes and good attention. So that'd be a good one.
So I know a lot of real estate investors, they really want to make more, earn more, have the more capability to give back. So what are you envisioning or anything that you're doing now to kind of give back, or you're planning on doing this once you make it or you're already making it? Right?
You know what's funny? I feel like I give back a lot already with the podcast. I've been pretty generous with answering questions and kind of helping people. I really do think education is the biggest and best way I can give back. I believe in, the whole give a man a fish, you feed him for a day, teach a man to fish, you feed him for life. I really do think that real estate education is something necessary. And, to this day, I've never really directly monetized the podcast. It's been a lot of good brand building and a lot of good connections. And I've definitely indirectly made money because of it. But I really do think that that's something I'll continue and scale up. And, I've never really, charged for a course or anything like that. That might come in the future, but I listened to, too much Gary V. Yeah, he just gives everything away. That was what inspired me actually to start the podcast. He's like, just give it all away for free, don't sell anything. And then who knows what comes of that in the future. That's always the model I've taken. And so, I'll continue to do that. That'll be a big part of it. Definitely want to, educate people on more things than just that. Personal financial management is certainly part of it, but then also understanding the entire political economic system, how it works, and, kind of helping to steer the ship more in the correct direction, instead of the way it seems to be going now.
Fantastic. Well, Andrew, thank you so much for coming on the show today and sharing, what you've been doing in the space and how you've been able to utilize your income, get to and reach your FIRE goals and your visions and what it looks like. And so for our listeners out there as well, who'd like to learn a little bit more about you and your journey, where's the best place that they can find you?
So Instagram's probably the easiest at the Andrew Hines. And then if they want to follow along in the podcast, learn about real estate investing, and hear me talk about a lot of different things around that topic, as well as my guests, you can just search my name on any of the podcast platforms, Andrew Hines, and the last name spelled Hines.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, Andrew.
Yeah, thanks so much for having me. It was a lot of fun.
All the links mentioned in this episode are included in the show notes. And if you love this episode, please leave us a rating and review on Apple iTunes. The link is also included in the show notes. And we would really appreciate your help in spreading the word to more high income earners on how they too can maximize both their time and money.
Also, if you still haven't joined our High Income Earners Facebook group, you are missing out on High Income Earners community, where we help each other reach our own version of FIRE.